We are Southern Illinois. It's time for Saluki football. Now, here is the voice of the Salukis, Luke Martin.
Well, we wish our football recap podcast of the year was still about another week out, but here we are. The Saluki radio crew is back. Man, it feels like it's been a while since I've been able to say that. With Mike Trude, the Coach Pat Poor, I am Luke Martin. We welcome you in to the Wells Production Center for our final football podcast of the season as we dive into everything Saluki football and recap what was the 2025 season. And fellas, one, good to see you. Hated I had to miss that last game of the regular season at Illinois State. I was down in Jacksonville with Saluki basketball, and you guys, man, saw a heck of a dominating effort for the Salukis to close out the year.
You know, it was just, you couldn't have scripted it better for the seniors, for Nick, the staff, the program in general, to take on a team that was in the top 15, 12th or 11th at the time of the game, depending on which poll you were looking at. They needed to win to potentially get a top 8 seed, so they had something to play for. It was their senior day, and Southern came in and just from the get-go was all systems forward and never looked back.
Yeah, just one of those games where it's like all the stuff that we had talked about and rehashed and the why, the answer to the whys, and it's like, I mean, it was just about as perfect a game into the season with a lot on the line for the opponent and us, so to speak. But yeah, it was awesome. It was a great day.
It was a great day because of all the things that, as you were alluding to, Coach Poor, there were no doubt things throughout the season that Southern wished they could have cleaned up, gotten a little bit better, which no doubt would have flipped some results, which odds are we're having a completely different conversation right now because we're saving the postseason conversations when the season is over. But in so many ways, I mean, we know to come off what was just in every way a deflating game against South Dakota and 5-0, you leave everything you have out in the field to come back, to turn around in a game that ultimately didn't get you into the postseason, but still to look the way you looked. You have to have buy-in and belief in like it wasn't just like Illinois State said, here you go. I mean, Southern had to take that baton and run with it that final game of the season. That, to me, is what says everything that we have seen all throughout the year. It's a credit to Coach Hill and his staff. It's a credit to the players for they don't listen to the outside noise. They were always focused on what their task was for that specific week.
Yeah, and just like they had done so many times during the year, they took the ball, got a touchdown on the opening drive. Illinois State did answer, so then we're thinking right there, this could be one of those seesaw games. Illinois State never even came close again to getting towards the end zone, and the Saluki offense was just phenomenal, and the defense did everything it needed to do.
Yeah, having lived that for a lot of years, you know, those ups and downs, and I talked throughout the year about responses. It was like Mike talked about the offense taking the ball, and and we had done that, consistently. But
Amazing. Defensively
is where you really felt the vibe. That first series was just boom, boom. I mean, we're knocking people back, and we're just like throttling them. And then did it the second series, and it was like, wow. And it did. It just unfolded like this is what, you learn something about your team and your program every week, and it was like it truly came to fruition on that day. It was just like, wow, that we've talked about that before. Here, like I said, the answers to the questions all came to fruition on that day.
And if there hadn't been that one misplay on defense on that opening drive, Illinois State probably wouldn't have scored all day long. It was a good call by the Redbirds, and a linebacker just didn't get to the spot, and he was a big gainer. But without that, they probably don't score the whole game. So we talked about it all year long, complementary football, picking somebody up, setting somebody up, taking advantage of something, and Southern did that in every phase, in every quarter.
Well, to end the season 7-5, clinches an above 500 record, which, folks can say whatever on the outside of 7-5, what the team really talked about at the end of the year. No doubt the goals were higher, and we'll get to that in a moment. But, your question to Coach Hill, Mike, I think after the game was no question really pointed and true. There's a big difference. There is a huge difference between 7-5 and 6-6.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And a year ago it was 4-8, and could have been 3-9 if not defeating Murray State on that last game of the year, and that's a big difference.
Or the comeback against Youngstown, even more. That could have been another game.
Absolutely. So, no. When everybody looks back on that season 25 years from now, and they see 7-5 from a 4-8 season the previous year, you're going to go, that was a heck of a climb for that team, especially knowing the league and everything. But 6-6 would have been. They just barely got to 500, and this was a team that had won 3 in a row, had 6 wins for a long time, and then finally got that 7th one to give the winning season for the program. And going out on a positive like that against who they did it against in that situation, huge.
And to do it, Coach Poor, with guys like Chris Presto, who could have clearly just sat. I know there's many other names that I'm forgetting. You guys can probably run through them of all guys that eventually played in the game. They had significant injuries. I felt for Chris because when he got the interception in the game, you could tell if he's completely healthy, that's a pick six.
Yes.
And he goes the whole way. Not to egg on you a little bit, Chris Presto, but to see guys rewarded like that. Again, it wasn't even like his mind the whole week was, how do I get to play? It wasn't, all right, I'm going to sit this out and see what other options come out. The only option to him, Coach Poor, was we're going to play. And to me, that you can speak to it. Mike and I can't because we're not smart enough to coach. We were never in that room. But to me, that has to be the ultimate feeling as a coach when you have guys respond the way like a Chris Presto did and many others did that last week.
Yeah, and that I always get in a funky mindset at the end of the year, like a year like this, because I've been on both sides of it. At the FBS level, hey, we're going to a pretty good bowl game, and everybody's warm fuzzies, and and at FCS level, it's kind of like, well, we didn't accomplish our goal. And it's all perspective, how you look at it, like I said. And what you're talking about with Chris Presto, that's a signature of the character of the program and that commitment and why college football for us at Southern Illinois is still awesome, because that's what it's all about, is just seeing guys that are so committed that it's like, hey, it's just my body, I'm gonna play because I love competing and I love this place, and I know there's importance in us being successful, and that's what behind the scenes. And if you're not sitting in those rooms and you're not with those guys every day like I was for a lot of years, that's what really stands out, is just that is the program, and it means a lot. And a win and a winning record is, it's hard to win a football game.
Yeah.
And then you look at who we're doing it against. Literally, we go into the playoffs as soon as we start conference, in all actuality. It's not like we got any cream puff little stretches in the season where it's like, hey, we got to go right here. It's week after week after week after week, and it grinds on you, and it tests your will and your commitment to, hey, got to keep going, got to keep fighting, got to keep scratching. And I thought that really came out of that last game, was like, that's who we are right there.
Yeah.
We had guys, hey, screw it, I'm playing, and I'm going to play well. And that speaks volumes to where we're at program-wise, and, especially at the level that we're at, because this is, I was telling you earlier, you look at, like right now, the college football playoffs are going on. We're very mirror image of it, playing in the Missouri Valley Conference. It is. It's like the SEC. It's like, we talked about it earlier. It's cannibalism, and you got to be really, really good, and you got to be a little lucky to keep going after number one, and I mean, we're looking at that program up north. Holy cow. I mean, that's unprecedented.
It
I
is.
mean, in the history of college football, it's unprecedented what they've done. But that's what you're chasing.
And to evolve, it's not like North Dakota State is still doing the exact same things that Craig Bowl was doing.
No, different guys.
Different guys, and what Coach Polisek has done. I mean, you got to tip the cap to him. He has just been able to take that thing to a whole nother gear. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's where I kind of want us to transition, is looking at the postseason. And one of the things that for us that I think we try to do is whatever we say throughout the year, we want our words to obviously matter, and we know we look at it from a Saluki perspective, but I also hope that opposing teams that do watch us, that listen to us, there's a lot of credibility that us three say, which is why I think looking at SIU and getting into the postseason, there's no one they should be more frustrated with than themselves.
Yeah.
This was a Saluki program that did not get snubbed from the postseason. I think if you use words like snubbed, to me it is, and it all depends on what your definition is, which we can always argue definitions, but it's, to be snubbed means you did enough. You felt like you did enough on your resume to get in. Not, do you look like a playoff team? I think all of us, I think many of the fans in our league, I think fans across the country, if they're being honest, knows that the 7th or 8th team in the Valley could potentially go on a run in the postseason. That's why we talk about all the time. That's why we talk about all the time. Just get in. Find a way to get in. Find a way to put yourself in that position. The Salukis just fell probably 1 win short, depending on what that win could have been. Maybe you were 2 wins potentially short. I know so many have made the conversation about the non-Division I game at the start of the year with Thomas More. I don't think it's necessarily the greatest idea to play non-D1 teams. But let's just take that game and say you played a lower-level FCS team and the season still played out the way you were. You were going to be 7-5 at the end of the year, still with North Dakota on possibly of who gets in.
Yeah.
And North Dakota clearly played much better against Southern at the end. So I know a lot of folks have looked at the non-D1. They made a big deal about the schedule. I still think if it was a lower-level FCS opponent, it doesn't really necessarily move that needle. Southern didn't get in because they played a non-D1. Southern didn't get in because they did enough and they should have been in. Just unfortunately, if you hold on against South Dakota or you find a way to beat Youngstown State, it's a completely different conversation. There were things that were within Southern's control to get them into the postseason. Do you guys agree, disagree? Do you feel I'm off base, or is that pretty much spot on?
Totally agree. You are what your record says. 7-5. You're a good football team. You go back to 2 ball games that you had in your grasp and couldn't finish. Youngstown State had a lead, couldn't finish it. I mean, call a spade. A little bit of luck, unfortunate. Had a game we could have put away against South Dakota, didn't. Unfortunately, got caught, hey, we weren't lucky in 5 overtimes. You know what I mean? You can call it whatever you want. Those 2 games led you into head-to-head versus North Dakota, which is probably the one game of the whole season that is just like
Laid an egg.
Nick would tell you, we just didn't play well. And you can't have those when you're looking at your season the way we're looking at this season. When you go on those runs, you don't have that game. You get fortunate and you win the 5 overtime game. You put the Youngstown State game away, and all of a sudden you're sitting there.
You're a national seed.
Yeah, you're sitting there. Hey, we might not have to play the first round.
We'd be talking about our first game potentially this weekend.
But that margin of error and that slippery slope is what you deal with day in, day out back there in those offices and week to week in the Valley. I mean, it's a monster, and that's why it's disheartening sometimes to see people look at the program in terms of just the record. There's a whole body of work that goes into Monday through Saturday for 12 weeks to get to the point of what we're talking about.
And you look at 12 games, the worst first half of the season was the home game against North Dakota. Southern could not do anything offensively or defensively in that first half against North Dakota. And it came off of the loss at North Dakota State, where Southern again closed the first half horribly, had a lead, had a chance for a bigger lead, and ended up not having a lead, and then just getting blown out in that crazy third quarter that was all ND State up there. And then they carried that hangover, which they hadn't done all year long, didn't do after that. Even after losing the heartbreaker at Youngstown, you come back and you play a phenomenal first half against South Dakota. Again, you've got that big lead and couldn't hold it. But again, then you come back against Illinois State. So it was the one game all year long where not only was it the first half that was horrible, but the whole game, they woke up a little bit in the third quarter they got on the board, and they had a chance if they could have stopped Kaminsky and company, and they just couldn't do it. And that's the game that kept them out of the playoffs. It wasn't losing to Youngstown and South Dakota. Those would have gotten them in for sure if they win those. But when you look back on it, it's the loss to North Dakota at home in a game where you were not even competitive.
Yeah, and that's talking about a game. You go back to North Dakota State, and that's literally more specifically a little gap, a little spurt in a game that turned out, it's not like we played poorly against North Dakota State. It was just, unfortunately, they made more plays than we did. We had some bad things happen to us that turned that game. Otherwise, you're on a monster run, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But that's what you do, like right now. You go back and why, you got to find a way, and that's the thing. It's, that's what you're looking for. It's like, why'd that happen? Why did this, we got to get better at this. We got to get better at this, and that's a bad feeling from a coaching standpoint, is because you always want to look at the glass half full as opposed to, but you got to call spade. Why? You got to answer those questions. Why'd that happen? What are our deficiencies? How do we build ourselves better for those situations? And that's what's great about college football. It's every year's different.
You get another chance.
You can't paint this thing next year like, okay, it'll be like that next. Hey, you got to go out and play every snap, man.
Well, and I think that it's also one of those things when you're a part of the coaching staff, which you've been a part of the staff. We've been around it a lot in our time together. You got to have those honest conversations and be willing to see a spade and call it a spade, like you said. And I think there's no question that Coach Hill and his staff will do that and address it, because when you look back at the year, it's just one of those things. When you talk about the team, I think you can say, back to the original question I asked you guys, is you can still say that, hey, this Saluki team no doubt played their best in their last game. I don't have any doubts that if you send Southern on the road to whomever it is, that we would have showed up and played well, and had a chance to win games. You can still say that and also be honest of didn't do enough. There's nobody to point at and be frustrated by other than yourself. And when you look at the year, offensively, those numbers, we can run through them all, and we'll talk about DJ and his numbers specifically in a moment. The offense was at an elite level. You had a Paul Halen who was just elite all year in so many areas, from punting the football to his field goal kicking, but the defense just wasn't there enough. And especially in those two games that we talked about, you're trying to close out the Youngstown, South Dakota games, especially in the second half. The only stop you had was Jeremiah McClendon's interception on the first drive against South Dakota in the third quarter. I believe all the other drives ended in touchdowns. Just Coach Prawn, his defense, they answered the call the last game of the year. And I don't want it to make it seem like I'm egging them, but it was clear throughout the year that just defensively, Southern did not have enough answers, enough in those games, because offensively, man, you look at all those numbers. SIU, from third down efficiency to when you're in the red zone, do you execute? All of them, SIU is running the football. SIU performed at a really high level consistently enough in a lot of areas, and that's what makes it a hard pill to swallow because you want to get in that postseason because you know you are elite in some really good areas.
But also the defense in those two games specifically, South Dakota and Youngstown State, had horrible second halves. So the offense.
Yeah,
I mean, all the
Absolutely.
offense had to do was half of what they did in the first half. Southern wins both of those games.
Yes.
But the offense went just blank also in both of those situations. And I remember Nick saying that specifically in the South Dakota game, there was the long halftime, there was the opening drive by South Dakota that we eventually got the interception, but ran it down to the 9-yard line, only ran 3 offensive plays. Then South Dakota went on like an 11-play, 6.5-minute drive. Southern gets the ball back again, and Nick said the offense hadn't really been on the field in almost 45 minutes and didn't have a rhythm. Well, they didn't have a rhythm to start the game either, and they went right down the field and scored. And so there were times where the offense just seemed to not be able to do things the way that they had done them previously in the ball game. And I get it. It's the defense, makes adjustments and takes things away that were there in the first half, all of a sudden aren't there in the second half. But with Nick's offensive mind and the offensive everything, they didn't make enough adjustments to find the right plays in those halves to keep up with what was happening against the defense.
I think before you jump in, Coach Spohr, and the record is what the record is it probably shows you, as you allude to, there are facts, I think, within that record, and you can just simply say for SIU this year, to what Mike's point is you can look at, like I did. I was talking about the defense mostly. Man, if there's just 1 or 2 more drives offensively, if they find a way to convert, it's a different story. What are we talking about here? We're talking about complementary football. And unfortunately this year, that's an area where you take that North Dakota State game. You're right. Was the fumble a tough fumble from DJ late in the game? It absolutely was. But what you had to find a way was to stop them either going into halftime or for sure stop them coming out of the locker room or score on your first possession. Southern just this year, there were too many of those small segments, which to me also says that's the complementary football piece that just wasn't there enough.
Yeah, and those answers run the gambit. Sometimes it's scheme. Sometimes it's personnel. Sometimes it's situational. And that's what you do this time of year if you're back there, as you're looking at
pre-snap penalties.
Yeah, I mean,
which
like
weren't
I said,
an issue early, but later in the year.
It runs the gambit, and you can point your finger at a lot of different things. And, that's the one thing that I've always admired about Coach Hill and the staff and just the approach is that it always, he throws it back on him. And like I said, behind the curtain, man, I mean, it runs the gambit, hey, in this situation, were we aggressive enough? Were we disruptive enough? We've talked about that through the year. In my opinion, there were times when it's like, boy, you'd like to see us, get them out of rhythm. And again, that's what's great about football, man.
It's a guessing game.
I mean, you can't script it. And, you just, you try and fix stuff and then you try it, but there's something to, you got to find a way. And,
yes.
And that ain't easy and it takes time. And sometimes it's just, we talk about it. You get on runs, man, somebody comes out of nowhere, it's like we talked about, we had to improve our running game going into this season. Well, you saw Eddie emerge. You saw. It wasn't all just DJ Williams. Hey, we got better up front. Those are fixes from the previous season. Now you're in that mode where it's like, what do we gotta build better? What do we gotta fix, so to speak, to be talking about different things this time next year? And
why we bring up, and I think down the line you're going to see more arguments. We talk about kind of circling it back to the playoff side. Man, if Youngstown State, for them, if they just don't blow a 28-point lead, it would have been a perfect weekend for the Valley to start off, the postseason for the FCS, which, man, we were able to talk to Coach Phillips this year. I really feel for him. It's the third time that one of his teams has blown a 28-point lead. Of course, first time this year, and I mean, you feel really good when you're up 42-14.
Yep.
I think it was
In the third quarter.
In the third quarter, and you lose 43-42. But that game aside, you look, Villanova handles Harvard very easily. North Dakota goes on the road. They handle Tennessee Tech. And let's be honest about it. Tennessee Tech was deemed a team that if they would have lost to UT Martin at the end of the year, that they would have gone because of where they were ranked, their potent offense, all those things. It really goes to show you, and I'm not trying to just point out Tennessee Tech specifically, but their strength of schedule was in the hundreds. I think it was maybe around 105. When you don't test yourself, when you have opportunities to potentially probably play a North Dakota light team in your non-conference, they clearly chose not to. Now, they beat UT Martin. They earned the auto bid. They deserved to go. But I think North Dakota proved that the sixth team in the Valley dominated a team in the – now, Tennessee Tech towards the end of the year, you could see in some of their scores that they weren't as convincing as they were early on in the year. But that aside, the sixth team in the Valley dominated a clear champion best team in the OVC Big South, and insert any of those other leagues too. And I was really irked me when I was watching the selection show and I heard some of the talent on that show say, I don't want to see the fifth or sixth place team out of some of these. Like, give me the best from these other leagues. The best from the other leagues
is the winner.
Are not beating the sixth or the seventh place teams in the league. And that comes all back to our conversation, what we were talking about earlier. We all know that SIU didn't do enough to get in. But we all know that, you know what, Southern may have been the seventh team in the Valley. But they can go and they can beat a lot of those conference champions that get auto bids. And really my whole conversation that I wanted us to just have in the relay is the Valley's different, man. It is a different league, week in, week out. No doubt a tough one for Youngstown to start off. And now, of course, Illinois State, who do they get? They got to play North Dakota State, which how they ended the year probably deserved a little bit of punishment for losing at home in the way they did to Southern and now have to go on the road to Fargo. But that alone, man, when Valley teams get that opportunity to go up against those teams in the postseason, it's clear. Those Valley teams are prepared and ready to go. And that's why in years to come, when I don't want to hear from other people like, man, why are they talking about 6 teams from the Valley and potentially 7? There's a reason, and those teams showed it. And North Dakota specifically showed that going on the road at Tennessee Tech.
It's like Brock's back when we talked with him about, getting in and having to play on the road because they host the IHSA playoffs. Obviously, with snow this year, it all didn't happen. But Coach Spack just blatantly said, send us somewhere. Yeah. Send us anywhere. This is the Valley. We are ready for anywhere you want to send us. And they look at us as we're the 5th or 6th or whatever team in the league. They go, well, how can they be as good as a conference champion? Well, it shows up year after year after year that after the first round of the FCS playoffs, whether there's 3-seeded teams or 1-seeded team, the other teams are all winning dominantly or playing a really close game, or in Youngstown's situation, had the game in their back pocket and just couldn't get a first down in the second half to keep anything going.
Well, and it to me, it's like you almost feel like you're in Paul Feinbaum syndrome because it is. I mean, you look at the beginning of the year, South Dakota State goes out to Montana State and whoops them.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's right out of the gate with a new coach and some questions as far, hey, are the Jacks going to be the
new
same
quarterback,
as they were?
new everything.
And I mean, it is. It's just, again, you call a spade a spade. I mean, this league is you can get exposed within the conference, and and that just points to when you do start talking playoffs and playing people across the country. It's apples and oranges, and that's my opinion, but the numbers prove it out. I mean, North Dakota loses their quarterback, and they found a way. Those 3 running backs just pounded Tennessee Tech. They hadn't seen that before, and that's the respect and the credibility that the league does have that we talk about all the time. It's legit. It is that.
Well, let's kind of dive into some specific guys, and there's so many guys that we can spotlight, and I know we're going to miss some of them, but the ones I think no doubt deserve some praise. I want to start with Jeremiah McClendon. He, due to some stat corrections going back, he does end the year with 16 passes defended and pass deflections, which will give him the single season record now over James Caesar.
That's good because I called it like in the 10th game.
Yeah, so Jeremiah McClendon will finish with that record. I mean, on the year, he finishes with 59 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. He had a sack, 2 interceptions, again, the 16 pass deflections, had a forced fumble, had a fumble recovery. He blocked a field goal against Thomas More to start off the year. Jay Black, as the guys called him, man, what a year he had. So proud of him.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Jay Black Island, and it was very evident from the start of the season to the end of the season, his consistency, just technique-wise, and what they did with him, what Prawn did with him. I mean, he played in a lot of different type of coverages and with different techniques, and that, that's not an easy position to play. I mean, you literally, you're a hero or a goat on any given snap, so to speak, and he did. I mean, warranted the stats that he put up, just the level that he played with all year long.
And struggled against Fenner, against South Dakota, probably the only game all year that he really struggled, and then came back and just shut out Sopkowitz at Illinois State. I mean, caught a couple of balls, but nothing meaningful the entire game. And Jeremiah had the interception as well and almost got a pick 6, but just got tripped up at the 9-yard line. But what a season, what a fun guy to watch and be around at practice and to talk with, and just as upbeat as you were going to find. And he got banged up a little bit during the year, and we'd say, "How you doing, Jay?" And he go, "I'm fine. I'm going to play. I'm good." And again, like Pat has always said, you're on an island in that position, and you're going to get beat. It's just the nature of the game, and it's how do you respond. And his response in Game 12 after the entire team's disappointment in Game 11, and I'm sure that he wishes he got a better break on that last 2-point conversion that Fenner caught, and all of those things. But again, a guy that could have just said, "I've had a great year, don't have to worry about this last game." No, just, again, he wanted to go out like a warrior. He did, and so much fun to watch play.
First teamer, All Missouri Valley Conference, and so deserving for Jeremiah McClendon. From the defensive side that got second team honors, Colin Bohannick at linebacker. We've spoken so highly of him and what he has done throughout the year. Colin, deserving of that, represents everything you want in terms of a Saluki. A guy that came back from injury last year. I mean, he's another one. I mean, from the Noah Finskys to the Derek Hardens to so many others that we can get into that, honestly, their careers they could just be like, you know what, I'm done playing football. Like I've got my degree. I'm just gonna wrap and finish. Shug Walker, I think another. I mean, there's so many of those guys that just could have been like, I don't need to come back for another year, especially after the disappointment of last year. Really glad Colin came back, and he really was a guy that was so steady at linebacker this year for SIU.
Yeah, and if you've been around Bohawk at all, competitor, warrior mentality, great teammate, loves football, there's your answers right there. Why a guy goes through what he went through and comes back, and that's what he loves to do. And it shows out, and just he's one of those guys I've always thought, watching the last 2 years, he brings an aura with him.
Yeah.
Whether it's just his communication skills and running the defense or just being a teammate. I mean, he really does. He's got some shine to him.
Yeah, on the post-game show, we asked him about getting after that South Dakota's loss, the disappointment. As a captain, as a senior, as everything going out, what kind of things did you say to these guys? Or he goes, you know what? We didn't have to say anything to these guys. That he said that was the unique part about being a captain on this year's team. There wasn't a lot that any of us had to say to this team because of the culture, because everybody was bought in from the get-go. And everybody looked at themselves in the mirror and went, we just got to be better. And it's a collective group. He said, captain was, being a captain is a great thing because it's voted on by your teammates. And in some instances, there's probably a lot more to it than what this year's captains had to go through, because this team, they loved each other. As people said, the offensive guys hung with the defensive guys. That doesn't happen a lot in college football, but with this group, they knew each other's names. They knew each other's nicknames. They knew everything about each other, which is kind of unique in this world of this is the offense and this is the defense.
And there wasn't, I've been around teams that have, when you're going throughout a year like this year, where you could be on that offensive side of the field and you hear something like, man, I wish the defense could just get stops, or, you're going out on the other side, you're on the defensive side of the field. It's like, man, why can't our offense just get one more score? In those games that we were just talking about and breaking down, never heard that.
No.
And we were at practice virtually every practice they had throughout the year. We were there. We're at a lot of walkthroughs that they would do at the stadium, even going all the way back to fall camp, which I know is before games. You just never heard that. And to me, that's a huge credit and a testament to the program just as a whole. Kind of continue. Paul Halen. Paul got second team all league in terms of field goals, 15 to 17 on the year. The two misses that we were just both over 50 yards. Purdue was, I believe, a 53-yard try, which was going into halftime or close to halftime. Yep. And then you had the 51-yarder at Youngstown State, which, again, was one where the Salukis with some time management stuff probably could have got that a little bit closer towards the end of the first half. But those were his lone two misses. And here's the thing. Looking at his PATs, right, he was perfect on the year, made all 49 of his PATs. You actually go back to last year, too. The first one he missed at BYU, made the rest of them. Now, there were some issues with some snaps, so technically never got the kickoff. But he'll end with 75 consecutive PATs over his 2 years. That's the third best streak in program history, only behind two guys, Craig Coffin, who made 76 in a row, and Ryan Miller, who holds the record for 80 consecutive PATs. I mean, for Paul, the year he had, you never look, saying he was perfect literally isn't true because he missed two field goals. But for what you could have asked from Paul, you're going to see why there's going to be a lot of pro teams that are going to want to seek his services.
Yeah, just a phenomenal athlete. Could probably be a wide receiver if he wanted. He's got fast, tall, but what a leg he's got. And what was so important this year, and with kicking, it's all about the confidence of the group. It takes three things to get a kick through those uprights, and it's the front guys up front, it's the snap, it's the hold, and it's the kick. And the confidence that he had in Jason and Ryan up front doing the dirty work for him, where all he had to do was worry about kicking it instead of worrying, gosh, is the snap going to be good and is the hold going to be good? A lot of things go into a successful PAT or field goal, and Paul didn't have to worry about that stuff this year. It was just look at the uprights, tell him I'm ready, let's go.
And to piggyback, too, you think of the South Dakota game, right? That drive, of course, ultimately sent to overtime. We talk about the field goal that he made to force overtime, but the one right before that, he missed.
Yes.
And missed pretty badly to come back. And when I say missed bad, I'm talking about they called a timeout. South Dakota called a timeout, but Southern still snapped it, and he kicked it up and through. It was, I think, wide right. And
yep.
It would look good to us, but we looked on the replay. Man, he missed that pretty badly. This is a guy who made meaningful kicks at meaningful times throughout the year.
Yeah, and what you were alluding to, Mike, the snap, hold, the kick, you could feel his trust and just the boost in his confidence of how he went about the whole year kicking. But, in terms of him just being a wagon, he's punting too.
Yeah. And kickoff.
And kickoff.
And punting at a high level and kicking off. I mean, that you don't see that a lot. And that just speaks to his skill set and just his commitment to be good at all phases of special teams of the kicking game. And I think that's what really kind of puts him over the top in terms of what's in his future, is the ability to do all those things at a high level consistently.
Did not mention, by the way, we were talking about the defense as well. Donnie Wingate got honorable mention on the defensive side. Donnie, and you talk about just a tremendous young man too. And I know the defensive line at times this year was a struggling point for Southern, but Donnie, you talk about his effort. That guy, never had to question him. So congrats to Donnie on a great year and getting honorable mention. Flipping it over to the offense, man, I don't know where to start, right? I mean, who do we talk about on the offensive side? Oh, yeah, DJ Williams. I think he's a good guy. Starting off with, finished third in the Missouri Valley Football Conference Offensive Player of the Year voting with 31 points. I mean, DJ, there's so much you can go through with his numbers this year. Almost 3,000 passing yards, 2,846, 22 passing touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. He also rushed for a program record as a quarterback, 847 yards and 18 touchdowns on the year. Of course, he was a finalist for the Walter Payton Award, which goes to the best FCS Offensive Player of the Year. He didn't get into the top 3. I think it was 8th.
7th or 8th, yes.
7th or 8th in the voting. Just what DJ did. And here's, to me, what's still staggering about DJ Williams. And I was looking this up last night. Even in his career, which you go in his career in just 15 games, okay, 15 games, not a lot. And you look at a lot of the quarterbacks throughout Southern's history, they're typically in the 29 games plus. So guys he's surrounded in the record book have had almost double the amount of games. He'll finish in his career with 26 passing touchdowns, 22 rushing touchdowns in just 15 games. Now, that does not account, of course, for his time at Murray. Those are strictly just his Southern numbers. But the 18 rushing touchdowns was 6 all-time for a Seagull season by anybody, running back or quarterback included. The previous record by a quarterback was 11. Crushed it by 7 rushing touchdowns. He was tied, when you look at those 22 career rushing touchdowns in just 15 games, he's tied for 8th all-time with Roe Elliott for rushing touchdowns and Walter Poole. His 26 career passing touchdowns in just 15 games, that's 13th all-time, just one behind by a guy named Rick Johnson, who won a national championship here at SIU. It is just astounding to me that 48 career touchdowns in 15 games played. Been going through the record book, been trying to see. Right now, there's no one even close to that many touchdowns in a short amount of time. And out of respect to DJ, look, there's going to be options that young man is going to have. It is this day and age of college football. We all understand what it is. And whatever he decides to do, extremely thankful for what he has done and how he's represented our football program. And all of us, by the way, DJ, we want you to come back. It would be tremendous to have you come back. Yes, the bag from what it's worth from Saluki Radio. So for him to come back and just add to those numbers would be tremendous. But just what he's done in those really only one full season and last year a brief season, I mean, Coach Poore, I really want to go to you, and both of you, because both of you have so much knowledge of this program. I mean, where does his career, in terms of what he did on the field, stack up?
Well, it's crazy because I look back on my experience with Joel, and over a 4-year career, and really Joel's numbers, career-wise, got this thing flipped.
Yeah,
or at least when we were here.
No, without question.
The first go-around. Nick, a little shorter career, but still impactful in terms of numbers, maybe a little bit more with the passing stats and being more of a thrower than Joel was. A little bit more, at least initially, he got a lot of things that had a lot of impact with his legs.
And hair.
Yeah, great flow. Football Jesus, baby. But to then look at DJ doing it both with the legs, with the arm, and gritting it out.
I was going to say, and hurt.
Gritting it out for probably 5 games.
Oh, if not more.
6,
Maybe 7.
Is just astonishing. And and the way he carried himself doing it, because like I said, we've all seen a lot of them that, like, you get to that position, that eliteness, and all of a sudden they're a different guy. He's been the same dude. I mean, just literally just like boom, 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 boom. And the impact of him on not just the offense, but the program it has been like, I haven't seen that. And I mean, I coached quarterbacks a long time. I mean, had Mr. Irrelevant, Chandler Harnish at Northern Illinois, had Mitch Leitner at Minnesota, had Joel, had Nick, Ionati's in there, you know, guys that really impacted the program from a quarterback standpoint. And I mean, he's right there at the top, just witnessing, not coaching him, but just witnessing what he was able to do consistently, game after game after game. When you know, hey, that big red X is on his jersey. I mean, it's like, you know, teams win into that game. It's like, hey, take him out of the offense, you got a good shot.
Well,
and they weren't able to do it.
Yeah, when people talk about, I remember high school, I did play high school football, you know, and you have a coach that you love, and you say, I would run through a brick wall for that coach. I would do anything for that coach. That's how these players, offense and defense, felt about DJ. And it was, yes, athletically gifted, no question. And he praises the good Lord above every day for that gift that he's allowed to showcase. But it's what he does off of the field or even during a game. Yeah. People who watch football a lot will see the chair set up for the offense, the chair set up for the defense. Offense comes off the field. They sit in the chairs. They're on their headsets talking with people upstairs, blah, blah, blah. DJ will have a real quick conversation with somebody upstairs, maybe, and then he's right back on the sidelines cheering on the defense and trying to get everybody involved in that direction. And the defensive guys see that, and it just feeds off of each other, and it's not a show. He's not doing it for a show. He's doing it because nobody wants to win that game more than DJ and to affect everybody while doing it.
And I'll say this too, there's so many times where the family can be a distraction. And what I mean by that is when you start getting people, as I'm sure it happens throughout college football, we all see it. There's tons of these stories where all of a sudden, whether it's other schools, et cetera, start filtering out feelers. DJ's family was unbelievably not just supportive of him, but this whole program throughout the year. And I don't want to single out just one person in his family. Obviously, Erica, his mom, is just outstanding. But there's so many times where those type of people could be like, hey, you may want to sit, or hey, think about yourself. That was never a thing with DJ throughout the year, because I'm telling you, as you said, Coach Poor, you said 5 games.
I'm thinking 7.
I mean, really, honestly, even since the SEMO game.
Yeah, it's the SEMO game.
I would even say the Indiana State game where he had that long run and kind of got a little gimpy there towards the end. It's been a while this year since he was 100%, yet still played at an elite level. And again, by my keeping, through the record book and looking at it, I guess it's unofficial until I get Dom Hosher to give me the check mark and put in there. But he will be, if it is the end for DJ here at SIU, he will be the only player in program history to rush for over 20 touchdowns and throw for over 20 touchdowns. There's been a lot of good players that have come through Southern Illinois to be the only one to be able to do that. So, again, congratulations to DJ. And then before we kind of put the finishing touches on this, guys, Vincent Davis, career high 785 receiving yards. He was also honorable mention. 5 touchdowns his senior season. He was a guy that entered the portal, didn't get exactly what he wanted, but was humble enough. And also, by the way, not just humble enough, but was great with his teammates throughout the whole process to be able to come back and prove to be just so reliable in so many areas for the Saluki offense.
Just, again, one of the best guys to be around on the program. He was the unsung hero of the offense. They had guys who could get the ball and go deep, and Jay Jones was the deep threat this year, and Jay had a phenomenal year for somebody who'd just come through the program and saw nothing really until this year as far as getting that opportunity to be the guy. And Jay did not disappoint as the big, long man, but Vincent Davis was the guy who you looked to in those key situations because his hands were phenomenal, hard to bring down, ran great routes, and knew that if you needed 7 yards and the pass was only for 4, he was going to fight through 2 or 3 guys to get those extra 3 yards. And he's probably one of the smallest guys on the offensive side of the ball when it comes to running back or receiver. He just had that extra in him that showed up every game.
Yeah, I noticed right away with VD, teammate. I mean, he was one of those guys you could tell he was willing to do anything. Deep balls, short underneath, across the middle, blocking on the perimeter, and I think all these guys, it alludes to just the relationship part of the program, the DJs, the VDs, the Bohanics. I mean, just great guys. And that's one of the things as a guy who played college football and coached it, and it all goes back to, you don't remember everybody, but you remember the guys like that just they were great teammates, man. And you remember the things that they did, not just for you as a teammate, but also the program and the teams that you were on. And that's what's special about college football, is getting the opportunity to be around these guys, and then obviously for their teammates to, call them a teammate, call them a friend.
Noah Finsky was second team, by the way, all Missouri Valley Conference. Noah was just Mr. Consistent on that offensive line in so many ways. And then Cameron Dye was able to get honorable mention as well. And it was an offensive line that was a clear strength. Man, my heart broke for Derek Harden and how the season ended for him because of everything he's been through, obviously playing for his dad this year. But all of those guys literally were the consummate pros, outside of putting a very stinky Noah Finsky jersey on me way the back in fall camp. I still have not gotten rid of that stench, by the way.
And again, you talk about guys playing hurt. Hayden Logan, Cam Dye, Derek Harden. Finsky was injured almost all of last year, had to play 3 different positions last year. The key for the offensive line this year, which was rated the #1 offensive line in the Missouri Valley Conference when it was all said and done, was the fact that they all got to play their proper positions this year. Finsky last year was playing tackle, and during the week he had to play center because center last year, Chase Evans couldn't practice. So the reps that Noah was getting a year ago were not the true reps that he needed to participate in every game, but that was a Band-Aid offensive line a year ago because of the injuries. This year, they had guys go down here and there, but you have Aiden Logan who wanted to play in a couple of games and went as far as almost having a tryout on a Thursday afternoon after practice to run for a couple of coaches or do some, sideline to sideline and just trying to get in. That's how bad these guys wanted to play for DJ, for the offense, for the team. And it was just, again, a remarkable group that came together, and when they were on, they were on. And seeing Noah's highlight tape now that he's using to potentially play in the NFL, we, as in our jobs as an analyst and as a guy in the field, you have to watch the play. We sometimes can veer our eyes and watch other things that go on. And when you see a pancake block 5 or 6 yards down the field, you're still watching the ball carrier. Looking at Noah's highlight tape, my goodness, what a year he had, and things that sometimes we noticed, sometimes we didn't. But it's just that whole line this year was just as it should be, one team in motion, and that's what an offensive line needs to be.
Yeah, I said it when we first started in the summer during camp. That's the best responsive move, was putting him at center, because you want to build and be strong up the middle, center, quarterback, running back, and build out from there, so to speak. And like I said, what Noah Finsky's been through in terms of his career, having to set because of transfer rules and all of that, and playing out of position, and to stay as impactful and as positive as he has is just a testament to who he is.
Yeah.
I mean, just one of those guys that's like, I'll be 80 years old and if we're still doing this, they'll be like, hey, remember Fenske? Remember the year they moved Fenske to center finally?
But, I also think when he came here, he wasn't like he is now. He had a awakening when he got here to this program, and to be loved by a program, which he wasn't at either one of his other stops.
Colorado or Iowa.
He was just a guy who was ranked really high and plugged in and said, do your thing. Where here he was embraced from the get-go with and he's had a lot of issues, and they've been documented all the way growing up and through the years and through his first two stops in college. This is the only program that embraced the entire Noah Fenske. And I think he fell in love with the program, with the area, obviously, and matured incredibly over the last couple of years.
Final numbers or notes, I guess we could say, on the team before we look ahead to next year. Two guys did get on the Missouri Valley Football Conference all-newcomer team. We talk about Donnie Wingate. He was one of them. Fabian McCray, another guy who was a really good addition, a great personality to that room and the wide receiver room, and obviously had relationships with DJ in his past. Congrats to both of those guys on two well-deserving honors on the year as he finished. McCray with 39 receptions, 543 yards, and 3 touchdowns for Mr. McCray. Okay, well, now as we kind of put the finishing touches here, guys, on what's been a great conversation to look ahead towards next year. Really, let's just start from a scheduling standpoint right now for SIU. Non-conference-wise, here's what we know. There's still one game left to be filled, but Southern will play Sanford from the SoCon on the road. That will be Thursday, September 3rd. They will host SEMO on Saturday, September 12th. So they'll have some time there. They'll play Sanford on a Thursday and then kind of get that weekend and maybe get some extra practice days before Coach Tuke and SEMO come in for the War for the Wheel. And then they'll play Illinois on September 19th. And then the Valley opener next year, by the way, will be in Fargo against North Dakota State for the Saluki. So
Isn't the bye before that?
I think there is a bye before that in terms of that, and I'll double check that here.
I'm pretty sure there is.
Before I toss it to you guys. But looks like at least the non-conference schedule at this point. I know there's been some movement on that first game. There was some potential for it to be a really good ranked team, but we'll see how that all ultimately goes out. But no non-D1, so Southern's going to have all of their games. At least right now, the intention is to have a 12-game season, to have all of those games filled. Will be a good task going on the road with the SoCon team in Sanford on a Thursday. Obviously, we know, this past year was a tough year for Coach Tuke and SEMO, and to that matter, even though Coach Simpson got his team turned around to be in a position to potentially win that last game and get in, those two programs typically have much better years than what they had, and that unfortunately hurt Southern in terms of what their non-con could have been this past year. But non-con looks like a great test. And then ultimately, like we said, you're going to start off Valley play next year with North Dakota State on the road.
Yeah, I agree. SEMO game is a no-brainer every year, especially with the way the coaches like each other, and even the programs now have a good feeling for each other. It's a great attended game, so it's a box office bonanza for both programs. And when Tuke's got them going, and when Nick's got them going, it's a really
popcorn
fun.
game.
It's a fun football game. I mean, the one played this year at SEMO was just crazy, and people would go, "Yeah, pretty close game, huh?" Well, no, they never got within 3 touchdowns of us for the entire football game, but it was an entertaining game from the opening kick to the last, and they're playing for the wheel, so there is something to play for every year. Getting Sanford on the opening Thursday night, that'd be Labor Day weekend. That should be a lot of fun for them as well. Yeah. And then getting another FCS program probably to play, whether it's home or road. I don't think anybody cares. You'd like to have at least 5 home games.
Yeah, I think the objective is for sure to get that game at home. But
so that would give Southern at least 5 and maybe 6 home games next year if they do that. And then you've got the grind, and U of I, it's an opportunity.
Yep.
That's it. They're going to be a lot better than Purdue was in all cases, but it's an in-state game. Again, it's a game where alums can get to, and it gives you that little bit of hope because Nick never goes up there for a paycheck. He goes up there to compete, and then you do have an off week before you start the grind, which starts
Are you saying that's
in
going to be?
Fargo.
Are you saying that's going to be a tune-up for
Fargo, for North Dakota State.
Hey, don't give bulletin board material to Coach Bielema.
I don't think Brett would be looking at it that way.
No. But as you said, just to confirm, and Mike was correct, October 3rd is when Southern will make the trip back up to Fargo. That will be the opener for Valley play. And for those curious, this is the order that it will go. At NDSU, hosting Youngstown the week after, hosting Illinois State the week after. Head to Terre Haute to Memorial Stadium on October 24th. North Dakota, they will come back yet again to Saluki Stadium next year. That will be on Halloween on October 31st. Then South Dakota will be on the road November 7th. SIU will host Murray State for Senior Day November 14th. And then the return to the Unidome will be the final game of the regular season on Saturday, November 21st. So that's a look at the schedule. Still one more game kind of to go.
Looking at that schedule, the game at Terre Haute is the latest one, I think. Was it in October?
October 24th.
After that, it's home or in a dome.
Yes.
So cold
Yes,
weather.
you're right.
Cold weather, unless it's here, at Saluki Stadium, will not be a factor.
Breaking news, PJ Fleck just added us to their schedule. We're going to go up to Minnesota in November.
Layer up.
I'm bringing my oars.
But and as you said too, I mean, you look at you're going to start with 3 playoff teams.
Yep.
From the Valley, Indiana State, which is never an easy trip. Last time, of course, Southern went there, they got beat. And then you're going to have North Dakota, South Dakota back to back. So it's any. I mean, you can break
Doesn't
down
matter.
any
Doesn't
Valley
matter how you
schedule.
slice it up.
Deja vu. Deja vu.
Yes, it does not matter when it comes to that in terms of just looking at the Valley schedule for SIU next year. Of course, as we wrap it up, fellas, it was really a fun year being with you guys, as it always is. And, of course, the program, just so thankful to Coach Hill, his staff, the players are just, I mean, that's why we're heartbroken that we're not doing a game this weekend because I know it sounds such, whatever way you want to describe it. These guys were so phenomenal to be around this year. My heart breaks for them that they weren't able to ultimately get to a stage. I think we all know that they really should be on, deserve to be on the spotlight, their skills. But now it is kind of part of the transition we're in. I wish we could sit here and go, hey, here's everybody who's coming back. Here are areas you need to fill. I mean, there are clear areas that Southern's going to have to address. But the elephant in the room, as we all know, we don't know as we sit here today. Honestly, as we record this, it wouldn't surprise me if I check social media and then there's news of guys who are either playing the leave or whatever it is. So that, of course, we don't know, but that's where we're at. But I think we all know that the staff's going to do what they do, and that is go find the right pieces and find the right mix to be right back and ready to go come spring ball.
That's a great point because that was one thing that I was going to allude to is like we, through our experiences, if you can't tell, we're invested in Southern Illinois football.
A little bit.
And we care. And that's when you start looking at these things, this day and age in college football, it's a two-way street. Our team could be a lot different, so could everybody else's. And that's kind of intriguing and kind of exciting if you're not an old school guy like, hey, we've ruined the game. It is what it is. You got to play by the rules, and that's the field that you're in right now. And so that's kind of exciting from the standpoint of what can Nick and the staff do and have done a pretty good job to this point in terms of getting the right guys. Like Saban says, you want to make sure you're sending the checks to the right guys. I don't know if we're doing that per se.
You're just making sure you're getting the right guys.
But and that hasn't changed. I mean, 15 years ago, you miss on some recruits, and we found out with a DJ Williams, the guys that can transfer in and have impact. I mean, it's huge, and it can literally flip something from one year to the next, and that's kind of where you're at right now from a program standpoint. Is like, what are we going to look like come March and going into spring ball? Because there's only one portal window now.
Correct.
So what you get now is what you're going to have, so to speak, going into the fall. Different than years previous where they could leave at
Multiple
the end of
windows.
the spring.
Yeah.
You know, guys getting whatever. Mike Trude's schedule, you know, he's in his 9th year at, you know, playing.
Hey, just so you
whatever.
know, the contract negotiations with Mike Trude every year are very intense. So we don't know if he will be back with our crew.
I'm just happy as a hog that I'm along for the ride that you guys tolerate me, man.
Well, what's so fun is if you look at the offense and the defense as they took the field in maybe game 7 or 8 this year, really veteran group,
Yeah,
like
consistency.
like 90% seniors were on those two offenses. The entire line, except for Blaine, Hallie, were seniors, correct?
Yep.
DJ, senior. Jay Jones, senior. Fabo, senior. Tight ends, seniors.
Yep.
Eddie Robinson, sophomore. Everybody else, you know, pretty much will have to be replaced one way or the other.
Katauskas, who did come in
Katauskas,
late,
yes.
was an underclassman.
Underclassmen. So 2, 3, maybe 3 guys.
But your point, I mean,
And
overwhelmingly are guys who are close to
and
the end of eligibility.
starting defensive line, except for one guy, I think seniors are probably in their last year. Linebackers, except for
Gosh, wow.
Presto.
Presto has more time.
But Bame gone, Bo gone, Shug gone. I mean, Jay Black, Vinny, CJ. I mean, all those guys probably not back next year. And it opens the doors for guys who are coming through the system and for Nick and the staff to make those critical decisions on who to bring in, because Nick's not going to bring you in because you're a great tight end.
Yeah.
If you don't fit, you're not coming here. And because he's made mistakes like that in the past. Hasn't made those mistakes much lately at all.
Yeah, you really have to feel good about the formula that you're using this day and age, whether you're going pure development, you know, Murray State, you know, signed 50-some freshmen.
Yes.
You know, and it used to be that was plug and play JUCO guys. Now it's portal, and just that mix of, you know, on paper, pretty good looking class.
Yes.
You know, last week.
Yeah,
and
or this week on Wednesday.
You know,
Yep.
and that's the development guys. Yeah, they're paper tigers right now, but what you see on paper is what you got, and you know, you hope you hit on those. And great point. Nick has done a really good job of that fit, and that's probably more important than any of the paper statistical hype. Than anything is they got to know where they're at, and they got to want to be here and feel the tradition and the character and what the program's all about. That's huge.
In full transparency for our fans, and honestly, I even think we're going to plan to catch up with Coach Hill here and kind of do a podcast with him and break everything down as well. There are so many waivers. There are so many things that go on, like to your point, Mike, when we're kind of going through and you're saying names, I'll be honest, I don't even try to begin with that because it would not surprise me if I don't want to point out anyone specifically. But if you said player X, oh no, he's got another year because this happened, 3 years ago. And man, it is amazing how, and Southern is far from the only school. I mean, there's every school in the country how you can find ways to get guys extra games, and we'll see. That will all be figured out as we go throughout the rest of the year. But number one, we want to thank you, the fans. We really appreciate Saluki Nation each and every week, and both of these guys can feel your love throughout the year. This was a new segment that we did this year. We hope you enjoyed it. We look forward. We'll come and we'll have some ideas because, we just don't know what to talk about, what could we talk about? There's always things to talk about with this group. We'll do some throughout the offseason as well, but we wouldn't be doing it if there wasn't a fan base that was having a hunger for it. In Saluki Nation, you have a hunger for it, and we are very thankful and appreciative to you. And, of course, to Coach Hill, his whole football program, a warm thank you for all of you guys did for this group throughout this year. You guys make us feel truly a part of the program, and we're so thankful for that. So for the final time this season, for the Coach Pat Poor, Mike Trude, I am Luke Martin. We'll give a shout out to Paxton Guy too. He's not here. This is not the studio, by the way, where our guy Paxton Guy. But Paxton's a huge huge piece of what we do on Saluki
The
Radio,
best.
the absolute best. Things going on behind the scenes.
And Larry.
And Larry, for joining us that last game of the season. I mean, he's unbeaten now, and he fills in for yours truly on radio. So I think others are going to be trying to find a way to get Larry Larson some more games. But to that point, there's just so many people who make up what is Saluki Radio. And we're so thankful for all of them and all of you that make it happen. Until next time, Saluki Nation, go Dogs.
This has been Saluki Royalty, the official podcast for Saluki Athletics. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review however you listen. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Saluki Sports Network.